Hello, I'm Esther Gidhu-Ewart. It's Tuesday, May 3rd. This is Africa 54.
On this World Press Freedom Day, a closer look at Namibia's place in the history of African journalistic freedom. Why are Senegalese journalists finding it harder and harder to perform their duties? We'll explain. And studying the role of the environment in the development of cancer and the impact of cancer among Black women.
Tuesday is World Press Freedom Day, and the situation for the press in North Africa has never been so troubling. Reporters Without Borders say several countries are presenting alarming conditions. Algeria, where press freedom is drastically declining and the imprisonment of journalists is becoming routine. Morocco, which is keeping 3 leading journalists in prison despite pressure to release them. And finally, Libya and Sudan, where observers say that free press has disappeared. It's been 31 years since a Windhoek Declaration for the Development of a Free and Independent Press, which was born on May 3rd, 1991 in Namibia to support independent media in Africa. The declaration was a proud moment for African journalism, and it inspired the United Nations to launch World Press Freedom Day. Confidence Musafiri reports.
Today, Namibia continues to hold firm on the World Press Freedom Index as Africa's highest-ranked country since 2019. And presidential spokesperson Dr. Alfredo Hengari says it takes more than just upholding democratic values and processes.
Freedom of the press should not be seen in isolation. It is a function of a robust democracy that guarantees, under the Namibian Constitution, freedom of expression, including freedom of the media. We have done very well in terms of media freedom. It was in 2017 when President Geingob was addressing World Press Freedom Day. And he said that for as long as he remains President of the Republic of Namibia, freedom of the press will be guaranteed. No journalist, no media practitioner will be taken to task for the views that they hold and that they express. And it's a rallying motto of the administration of President Hage Geingob. President Geingob.
The Windhoek Declaration has become the foundation for global press freedom efforts and for Namibian journalists. One such journalist is executive producer at the Namibian Broadcasting Corporation and vice chairperson of the Namibia Editors Forum, Peter Denk.
As we celebrate World Press Freedom Day, we remember that this is the gift that Namibia gave to the world through UNESCO. There are still concerns on the continent as well as worldwide. We have seen the 2021 UNESCO report. In 2013, a lot of journalists were killed in areas of conflict. This time around, it's different. More journalists are killed in countries where there are no conflict. Any form of violence against humanity should not be tolerated. Journalists should still continue to write without fear or favor, making sure that stories are balanced, making sure that they speak truth to power. They need to be consistent in their message and have the courage of their convictions and continue uncovering those stories despite the hardships that are there.
Where we should definitely improve is access to information. Access to information is the backbone of journalism. The industry, what is, in my view, very important is the underpayment of journalists. Journalists have the same right to decent wages as the people that they report for and the people that they advocate for decent wages. So that is definitely an area that we should very urgently pay attention to. We can't have journalists who have not been paid and who don't know where to sleep because they've been kicked out. And at the end of the day, this is a red flag, and it is a very serious threat to media freedom, because it opens up the door, or it has the potential to give birth to brown envelope journalism, where journalists are opened up and incentivized to take incentives or bribes to kill some stories and push certain agendas.
Namibia is one of the few African countries that have made press freedom gains since 1991. Soon, the country will be promulgating the Access to Information Bill into law. However, many countries in Africa continue to struggle with journalism safety, independence, and financial pressures. I'm Confidence Musariri, VOA, Windhoek, Namibia.
Senegal stands out in West Africa with its media pluralism, consisting of more than 20 dailies, hundreds of radio stations, and several television channels broadcasting from Dakar. There are no journalists currently in prison, and no journalists have been killed while performing their duties. But Senegalese journalists say they are finding it harder and harder to perform their duty. Khalil Gay reports from Dakar.
With a constitution that guarantees freedom to inform, a diverse media landscape, and the reputation of a very stable country, Senegal has always been cited by observers as an example of a modern democracy fueled by its dynamic press. But the question is, how much of this freedom is enjoyed every day, in every circumstance, by every media person in Senegal?
We are not that free. We know that there are some religious forces that no one can report about. You know that there are certain issues that we cannot put into the media, into the mainstream media. We have seen political parties, whether opposition or parties in government, attacking journalists.
Senegalese media professionals stress the need for improvement and changes in the press code that was adopted in 2017.
This code now allows the administrative authority, meaning the prefect or the governor of the province, to assess a situation, a critical situation, if I may say that, and decide to close down a radio station or a TV channel.
So the biggest threat to Senegalese journalists is the Penal Code's Article 80, which calls for immediate detention and criminalizes any maneuver or act that might compromise public security or cause serious political disturbance. But Senegalese journalists have established a council called CORED with an internal court of peers which was given authority by the press code to suspend journalists, to withdraw press cards, and even to disbar journalists to ensure that they remain in an ethical line as recommended.
The current tribunal started its job at the end of September 2020, and so far it has taken care of something like 30 cases, and then made some decision in favor of the press or detrimental to the press.
Senegal's professional journalists all claim that the situation requires the mobilization of all the different sectors of the press to fight for an amendment of the press code.
We will try as much as possible to extricate journalists from criminal sanctions such as prison. But the type of sanction provided for the press companies are financial sanctions which would kill them tomorrow. However, the court did not provide for everything that is an offense committed via digital press, and today we are on digital. This deserves to be incorporated into the code.
The new press code does not break from the penal code and still keeps Article 80 and a series of legal repressive provisions that can send journalists to jail. Khalil Gay for VOA News, Dakar, Senegal.
While Senegal stands out as a beacon of hope for a free press, most of sub-Saharan African countries paint a grim picture of zero tolerance towards the media. Most countries reported numerous cases where journalists were tortured, jailed, and even killed for doing their job. For more insight on where Africa stands in relation to a free press, I'm joined live via Skype from New York by Angela Quintal, Africa Program Coordinator for the Committee to Protect Journalists. Angela, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you so much, Esther, and to your viewers, hello.
Looking back, Angela, in the last 2 years, how would you say Africa fared in terms of press freedom in the continent?
Well, I guess it's really bad news. It's much the same as elsewhere in the world, where in fact press freedom, like democracy, is in retreat. You've got more journalists in jail, you've had more journalists killed for their work, you have more censorship, more self-censorship, you have more assaults, you have gratuitous violence on journalists, and then of course one of the problems, the insidious use of spyware and digital surveillance to effectively intimidate the press.
You mentioned spyware, and we are in the digital world now where social media postings are, the in thing right now. But not everything posted on social media has been accurate. Is there a law that regulates social media and what is posted, and how are those who post content that is inaccurate held accountable?
I guess I should answer that question by saying that obviously we're always in favor and we encourage responsible journalism. But what we have seen, unfortunately, is how governments are criminalizing journalism online. It is, in fact, one of the trends that we've seen throughout sub-Saharan Africa, where governments turn their attention to what people are saying on social media, what they are writing online, what they're using on social media platforms, and attempt to stifle what is really free speech and media freedom. And so that, for the Committee to Protect Journalists, is a major, major concern and a trend that we have seen.
And how does CPJ protect journalists who are under threat?
There's a variety of ways. Obviously, we are called the Committee to Protect Journalists, and that is our mandate. I think we have a very good emergencies response team that over the years has become a lot more visible in the work that it does, be it in Afghanistan, be it in Burundi, now in Ukraine, where you actually have journalists who are offering the protection, safe passage, security advice, but also in terms of our own advocacy, which is key to the protection of journalists. You will see that we use our research to ensure that we advocate worldwide for the protection of journalists, so that they are in a position to do their work freely without fear of reprisal.
Angela, thanks. Angela Quintal, a CPJ Africa Program Director. Burundian investigative journalists report working under volatile conditions which leave media practitioners with one of two choices: either fleeing the Central African nation or work in an environment with no freedom and possibly face assassination at any given moment. Media experts say more than 107 journalists have fled Burundi, resulting from the political instability. For more, Bob Rugurika, an exiled Burundian journalist, recalls his professional career before fleeing the country.
In Burundi, as you know, I was working for an independent media and worked a lot in the field of investigative journalism. The most hindrances I faced, as many other journalists, is that the CNDD-FDD regime in place in Burundi since 2005 is a regime of former rebels who do not understand well the role of a journalist. They do not tolerate someone who goes against their views. I, as a journalist who always investigated on the killings and assassinations perpetrated by state institutions and the fraud organized by authorities, I have always had issues with the regime. I have been imprisoned and they have attempted to kill me many times. Frankly, there is no press freedom in Burundi. This is a well-known fact. Apart from the fact that Burundi is facing political violence and security since 2015, when the ruling party gave the third term to the late President Pierre Nkurunziza, people standing against the term of Nkurunziza, some military officers attempted to overthrow Nkurunziza so he may not run for the third term and violated the constitution. Nkurunziza and his supporters ordered the security forces, police, and the militia in Imbonerakure, the ruling party youth wing, to kill people. They tried to kill journalists. More than 107 journalists fled the country. It is the regime which kills in Burundi. So the journalists who are still there tell us that they have no freedom because they fear being assassinated.
We
keep working and continue to inform Burundians and the international community on what is happening in Burundi. I can say that people have finally realized that it is us, journalists, who tell Burundians and the international community what is going on in Burundi. We have radios and we have also some partners who support us, but we face a lot of challenges and there is possibility that we may succumb to the political pressure and violence, and this will be a major loss for Burundi. It may end in a very bad situation, worse than which it is in already. The advice I would give to the Burundian government is that they must be courageous and understand that the work of journalists is essential in terms of developing a country, democracy, and the people's right. It is really important, as you know, in developed countries, journalism is one of the pillars of democracy and development. So I advise the government to understand this. If someone denounces something such as the violence, it doesn't mean he's an enemy of the country, but he is helping the regime to govern correctly. But they do not understand this. What I can tell journalists in Burundi is to be courageous. We do not ignore that it is not simple, but we must do our best so that we may protect the profession, because the profession of journalism in Burundi is currently sinking and it will get worse.
That was Bob Rugurika, an exiled Burundian journalist. Let us know what you think about Africa 54. Africa 54's new Facebook page is facebook.com/VOA Africa. Still to come, Africa Health correspondent Lino Mudu has an update on breast cancer research. But first, Straight Talk Africa guest host Peter Clotty tells us what's on tap on Wednesday's show.
Join me, Peter Clotty, on the next Straight Talk Africa. I have an exclusive conversation with Yoweri Museveni, the president of Uganda for over 3 decades.
We don't want to be flunkies of anybody.
We discuss democracy, security, and stability in Africa, and lots more. Yoweri Museveni in his own words on the next Straight Talk Africa.
It's time for Health segment, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu with the latest on breast cancer research. Hello, Lino.
Hello, Esther. Hello, everyone. More than 2 million women worldwide were diagnosed with breast cancer in 2020, while 685,000 died of the disease, according to the World Health Organization. Experts say breast cancer is often diagnosed in late stages among women of African descent, with a higher mortality rate compared to Caucasian women. Researchers at Temple University in Philadelphia hope to find some answers about the illness. For more insight, I spoke with Jackie Saki, Temple University adjunct professor and one of the scientists involved in the study.
My whole goal is not just to be in science, it's to go where the people need me.
And I realized that cancer is #1 place, and women of color experiencing breast cancer, not just women of color, like any like we're men too experience prostate cancer, but people of color, most of them cannot afford to get the right treatment.
So what does your research consist of with regards to breast cancer? What are you looking for?
A lot of clinical trials that are going on for people that have cancer and getting treatments, even though people of color experience a lot more, have a higher ratio of experiencing cancer, they are not the ones being in those studies. So it's kind of like we are collecting data to summarize everyone's that are experiencing cancer, but we are not focusing on the group that are higher, that has like higher exposure to cancer. So us, Spiro coming in, we want to be able to bring those people, like African American women, like there's a high percentage of those people, even people in the Hispanic community, highest percentage as well, but realize a lot of the research is clinical trials, they are focusing on, Caucasians and other people to use them in their studies, more so because, and like coming up with a conclusion saying that this form of cancer, this is what we found, this is the outcome that we got after the clinical trial. We feel like scientific understanding is not accurate, since you are not focusing on the people that have higher exposure to that particular disease.
As a Liberian woman, what is your assessment of breast cancer among women in Africa and some of the most pressing needs?
We in Africa, I feel like we have other health problems, but cancer, how it's on the radar in the European countries or in the US, to be specific, is not as much. Because think about it, when we are talking about cancer, whether it's breast cancer or cancer of any kind, it's not always genetic. It's also epigenetics, right? Making sure you are having the right food, making sure you are having, you are being in the right environment. And sometimes people like us, we might not have cancer in our line, but when we immigrate, we change our environment. So chances of us experiencing cancer increase a little bit more than if I had stayed back home in Liberia. Back home, we don't, like Africa, we don't have the best stuff compared to countries like the US, but we eat fresh fruit, we grow our own fruit and vegetables, right? That eliminates the factor of GMO, of us being affected or exposed to that aspect of carcinogen product.
What will be the outcome for such research in terms of advancing medicine? What do you hope to see after this research?
The target of that specific cancer, whether it's breast cancer, the target of cancer within that community would be, the percentage would be a little bit lower. Because I'm not going to say it would be eliminated, it's going to be a little bit lower. The goal of every research is to find the biotarget and biomarker of specific gene is a specific individual, and with that biotarget and biomarker, you can come up with stable drugs or medication or treatment that can help that target, participants or that target individual, in this situation, individual of color.
And can this be a way also to perhaps prevent it?
With cancer, right, since it's a highly mutated cell, right, so prevention is a whole nother experiment, right, but who is to say? You never know, like a lot of people know cancer cell is very quick, very smart, very tricky too, so trying to fix it in one aspect takes it could easily mutate in another area where it grows. It doesn't show as cancer in the breast, but that breast cancer cell is still available in other part of the body. So because that breast cancer mutated gene is still available, so chances of that coming back is very hard, or it has like a good percentage of returning. But the goal is to definitely be proactive.
What has been the most significant part of your experience as it comes to your work and your journey?
And I had a chance to do a lot of undergraduate research that Temple offered to most undergraduate students. I had a chance to be part of that. And what that did for me was just to build my desire to be able to give back in health and wellness. Right after my master, I transitioned into teaching Because if I'm going to keep learning as a researcher or as a person, as a scientist, our education is perpetual, is ongoing. In the next 5 to 10 years, I want to be fully immersed in the health and wellness, whether it's like research or medical side, but definitely be in my country.
Jackie Saki, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a great meeting, and I appreciate the opportunity.
That was Jackie Saki, Temple University adjunct professor, speaking to us about breast cancer research. That's our health report for today. Back to you, Esther.
Thanks, Lino. Be sure to watch Lino Mudu's health report every Tuesday right here on Africa 54. Now, here's a sneak peek into a special VOA documentary about one city in Senegal.
fii lañu départ ndeysaan benn guddi rek la fa lay mbir mi xewoon fii ndeysaan fii lañu départ rek ne Sénégal ñu ngay dem.
bu ndaw yëpp demee bàyyi fii mag kese ah xam nga dëkk ba sooxe na bu ñu sañoon moom suñu doom yi duñu fi jóge.
da ngay nekk ci biir gaal gi vague bi di dóor gaal gi di la ko sàmm ci biir gaal gi nga toog noonu pendant une semaine mu metti trop waaye doo lekk doo naan.
Devoir jeter nos frères à la mer sans leurs parents voir leur corps, c'était vraiment dur.
Be sure to watch the full documentary at voanews.com/documentaries. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our new Facebook page, facebook.com/VOA Africa. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.